Hello everybody, Diane Xuereb here. Today I want to talk to you about overwhelm and the three things that I've discovered that are helping me to navigate overwhelm somewhat easier. But before I do, I want to talk about something interesting that happened to me as I was compiling the information in my mind about overwhelm. I found that I was getting overwhelmed by the simple reason that I was thinking that I would make a mess of it because I didn't know enough and that I wouldn't come across in a way that I expect of myself. So that was interesting for me to notice. Okay, this is it. I want to talk about three things that I've discovered, as I said, about overwhelm. And the first is urgency. The second is where your feelings come from about overwhelm. And the third is something you want to learn. Today, I want to talk about urgency because otherwise, and I want to split it into three because otherwise this video will be too long. So I have a question for you. Have you ever got the feeling that you had a whole load of things to do and you had no idea where to begin? You write a whole long list of things to do, and besides it being very long, every item on the list seems equally important and all very urgent. At which point, sometimes I start panting. I don't know if this happens to you. And then perhaps what might be typical, it happens to me. You might raise your arms up in despair, and as a consequence, do nothing because you feel too overwhelmed to get anything done. So here, I have another question for you. Are all the things on your list really urgent? Do they all have to get done today or within the hour? I think it's safe to say no. Do they? No, they don't. So what I discovered is that overwhelm is a sign of a busy mind. And that's just it. And I notice it. I don't know if you notice that your head starts to rev, like your engine is in overdrive, you know, that you're driving, you're in first gear and you forgot to shift it to second or to third. And then you hear the engine in overdrive. That's our brains. That's your brains going in overdrive, you know? And I noticed, see if it's the same for you, that I tried to find a solution to calm that thinking by thinking of how to calm it. Now, can you really find your way or find a solution, a way out of your thinking with more thinking? No. All you're doing is adding more thinking to the already loads of thinking, to the busyness in your mind. You simply can't come to a solution on how to calm yourself with more thinking. But here's the thing. Your brain has the natural capacity to calm itself down. Many people don't know this, but it really does. Our brain is amazing. You know, it's overwhelmed, it's busy, it's thinking, then suddenly it finds its own, it recalibrates, you know. And I'd like to give you an example, which is the same as trying to think yourself out of thinking. You know, muddy waters, you know, you either buy a little pond and you stir the pond with your hands or with a stick, or you throw a rock and the mud comes up and the water becomes unclear and you can't see through it. Well, it's the same with our thinking. It's the same with the waters. If you leave the water alone, if you stop messing around with the water, which means you take the stick out, you stop throwing stones, the water will settle, the water will stop, and the mud will just naturally settle and go down to the bottom again. And the water will become clear again. It's exactly the same with our brain. If you leave it alone, you stop trying to solve your busy mind with more thinking about it, you'll find that your mind, your thoughts will settle. And then you can get creative and you can get down to the first, most important thing on your list. That's all for today. Watch out for the second tip about overwhelm. Thanks for listening. Bye.